the New York Giants podcast. Are you a goofball that loves Giant football? If so, sit back and relax. Except you, that person driving. Sit up and keep your eyes on the road. Your ears, though, can still listen as we talk about the team that both excites and frustrates us so much. And now, here are your goofball hosts, Drew and Rob.
Welcome, fellow goofballs, to Two Giant Goofballs, a New York Giants podcast. I am Drew, joined as always by...
And me, Rob. Let's talk about this receiver room.
Oh, yes, it's babyface Rob himself here.
I feel so naked,
building.
guys.
You must feel cold, probably. You're missing all the insulation you've had in your face all these years.
And also, the first time in Jersey this year, it hit 80 degrees today. So
did it hit that warm today in Jersey? Ooh.
It did. It did.
It was tolerable.
And us New Jerseyans out there, I'm refusing to put the AC on yet.
Yeah, enjoy it while you can.
So last week when it was in the 60s, now it's 20 degrees hotter, just like that. Everyone's sweating. So if I start spitzing on this podcast, I apologize.
We know why. It's the heat. Can't take the heat. Get out of the kitchen.
Get out of the Jersey.
Oh, yes. Coming to Florida, it's much, much warmer. So, guys, today we're going to do an episode going over all of the wide receiver changes in the wide receiver room here overall, because let's be honest, there's a lot of new faces going on. A lot of new faces, not just Rob's new shaven face, just a lot of new faces in general. So, we're going to go over we're going to go over all the changes made via free agency, the draft, all the leftovers from last year's squad, the returning people from injuries, which feels like half the squad. And just kind of giving you guys kind of our thoughts on what's going to happen with this group here overall. So before we begin with that, of course, we have to once again thank our sponsor. We are again presented by Manscaped.
Manscaped.
My Lawnmower 4.0 back here next to me. We shave balls. We shave balls.
I got my newspaper.
Oh, yes. And again, guys, as Rob mentioned, it's warm here today. In Jersey, apparently, which is just weird to me because, it's been warm here.
This is what I felt like for the past 4 months.
So remember, when it gets warm, what happens? You perspire. You perspire in areas you may not usually perspire in even. So, yeah, the best way is to go ahead and get rid of that hair. Lawnmower 4.0, skin shaving technology. No nicks, no cuts. You got the ball deodorant to put on afterwards.
No cuts for those nuts.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. But, yeah, like I said, guys.
But, guys, seriously, if you're in New Jersey, this was a lifesaver.
Lifesaver.
Crop preserver. As you're...
Could you not describe your
if your guys are hanging down to your knees, you swap some of these on there, and trust me, you won't get some burns.
I'm just suggesting maybe you don't describe your down there routine and candy. It's not called a lifesaver. Again, guys, save 20% on your order, plus get free shipping at manscaped.com. Promo code Goofballs. Again, that is save 20% plus free shipping at manscaped.com with promo code Goofballs. And remember, guys, with Manscaped, your balls will thank you. All righty. Let's get into the wide receivers. Now, I was trying to figure out a good way to go ahead and list all these receivers. We have a lot of people to go over. So
there's a big room.
There's a lot. This room's overflowing with people here. So I went off of ESPN's depth chart they have for the Giants. I figure that's a safe way to do it because needs some arbitrary way of doing it. So before we get started with that, though, Connor chimes in here. Hey, Connor, what's up, man? Says, damn, Roberto, what's next? Gonna have shaved head like Drew? Guess the wife says no to the Luigi mustache. Says it's my face I wanted.
Wait. My face is your face? So you want the mustache for my face?
Face off. Face
You're
off.
Right? Are we in that crappy 1996 movie?
Whoa, excuse me. That is a cinematic classic face-off with the John Travolta and the Nicolas Cage. Okay. Classic. So let's get into our number one here that we have on the depth chart that ESPN gave, and that's Isaiah Hodgins, who's of course returning, re-signed by the New York Giants, 6'4", 210 pounds, just 24 years old still. 24. That's still pretty young for a guy who's
Yeah, I mean this guy. Let's not beat around the bush. He was almost written off as a practice.
We can't beat around the bush because we went to manscaped.com and saved 20% plus got free shipping.
Yeah. Listen, there's no hair whatsoever.
Oh yes, promo code Goofballs.
Because if you look, there's also a cut up here too. I'm not quite bald. You can still see it up here.
So we again, 24 years old. He's been in the league now 2 years already. 6th round pick originally out of Oregon State. Of course, 8 games, 5 starts, 33 catches, 351 yards, 4 touchdowns. That's just his Giant numbers. Keep in mind, Bills there.
That's what I'm saying. Let's not beat around the bush here, because you know how many starts he had besides being a Giant?
Which thanks to me and our 20% shipping using the promo code Goofballs.
Trust us. You're also thank you. He only had 3 starts as a Bill.
Yeah.
He had 4 catches as a Bill. He had 41 yards, and he averaged 10.2 yards per catch. So, yeah, this guy turned his career around as a New York Giant, and he was our number 1 last year.
He was like the opposite of Little John. Instead of turned down for what, he turned up for what. I mean, this guy.
Okay.
What? So, I mean, again, like this guy came out of nowhere in the NFL world. But again, you have to wonder, did Dable know something that? Because we can say, oh, Dable's a genius. He knew all along this guy had it. But at the same point, Dable was in the Buffalo last year. So was Hodgins. So
I think he knew the talent that was there, and I think he knew it would be a fit for what's over here. So there's a big difference.
And it was.
He's not the fastest guy on the field.
Nope. That's Flash.
Yes. Not Manscaped. See, Flash Manscaped would be even faster.
Oh. Fastly shaven.
Yeah. But, I mean, this guy, his 440 is not the best out there. We talked about it all year, the past month. Like, he's not the fastest guy out there. He's your slot guy, but he really, I guess, turned it up this year.
Turned up for what?
Okay.
People didn't hear the first part we did. I'm like, wait, what? They did not know the Little John song. It's turned down for what?
Yeah.
We know it. We're making a joke here. So not a very good one, but we're making it.
That's why we're goofballs.
Couple more comments here. Connor says, tell her it's your face. I'll grow it if I want to.
My face was very sweaty this past weekend. And actually too short.
And
hi, Dad.
There as well. He says, hey guys. Hey. Connor also chimed in and says, I'll have what you guys are smoking, or is it special mushrooms? Connor, I'm not gonna be the one to tell you this. I'm gonna. You don't smoke mushrooms, okay? You eat them. That is our drug fact for the day on Giant Goofballs.
When you eat narcotics,
yes,
they get digested differently. They go through your liver.
For the record, this segment is not sponsored.
This is sponsored by drugs.
This is sponsored by the DARE program.
Yeah. Take a bite out of crime.
But yeah, so Isaiah Hodgins, though, back to the actual topic at hand here. So I think obviously he's a lock to be on the active roster all year long, barring any kind of injury issues there. He showed us enough last year to show he deserves a spot on the roster.
100%.
And he very well could end up being the top weapon even in the wide receiver core, depending how things go down. There's a couple of guys that really I'm looking at is that could be possibly our first wide receiver overall on the depth chart at least.
We'll go down that list as we go down the list, if you will.
Oh,
but
when
it comes to Hodgins, he was the number 1, but I doubt he will be our number 1 receiver coming into this year. He will definitely have a place. He will have a place as a starter. He will be a very important piece of this offense. He will not be the number 1 like he was last year.
There are like 5 guys that I could seriously see be our number 1 receiver.
Yeah,
because we don't have a number already. 1. We have 5 number 2s. I mean, let's be honest. Let's call it what it is. Like,
I mean, I spoke at length who I think our number 1 is going to be, and it's not even a wide receiver.
Well, I'm saying number 1 wide receiver. I'm with you that Darren Waller will be the number 1 target. He should be, assuming he's healthy and everything, which we got to assume. But all righty. So, like I said, he'll definitely be active roster. Good to have him back, that's for sure. Another guy back, Darius Slayton.
Guess who is back?
6'1",
back again,
190 pounds, 26 years old. I can't believe he's only still 26. Been with us 4 years now.
I know.
5th round pick out of Auburn originally last year. 16 games, 11 starts. Remember, the first 5 games he barely could see the field basically, but he was popping on occasionally, so they still count as games he played. 46 receptions, 724 yards, 2 touchdowns, and he's got to be a lock again for the active roster again. I was going to
say he pretty much doubled all his numbers from the year prior, and
that's not saying much.
It's not because when you're talking about 339 yards, it's not saying much.
He was in the doghouse definitely his junior year, but his senior year,
Well, I mean, his sophomore year, he still put up 351. So
he's still a Bayside Tiger.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, beginning of the year, last year, just for whatever reason, there was issues with him as far as being able to see the field. I don't know if it's drops. I have to imagine that's probably a good part of it. We already know what Slayton is. His guy is just blazing fast speed. He's going to drop the ball occasionally. He did this in college. He's done it throughout his NFL career. It's what he does. He doesn't have good hands for receiver. But what he does is he has the ability to get open down the field, get pass interference calls down the field. And that is a special talent in this league. So,
Drew, do you know what his long touchdown was last year? His long reception, yards-wise, was last year?
67, I'm guessing. I'm really guessing. I'm throwing a random number out there.
55 yards.
I was close.
Last year, 42 yards. You know what that was? That was about 13-14% of what he actually caught for that year last year.
Yes.
41 yards the year before that, and 55 in his freshman year once again. So this guy will get you explosive big plays.
Oh, yeah. And that's
why
he
also will drop those plays.
Yeah, he will. And that's why I expect him fully on the active roster. I don't think he'll be our number 1 target overall. I think he's going to have more of a supporting role this season here, assuming everything goes well health-wise for everybody. But I do think, again, this guy's a guy we would not have thought pretty much every year would be our top receiver. And he has been our top receiver on the roster multiple years. I won't count it out as not a possibility, that's for sure.
No, you can't, especially the way this Giants offense has been working in general. Like, it just who knows? We talked about what we thought we might see coming up this year. It could be a completely different offense.
It could, that's for sure. As Connor says, I know that. I just figured you're doing one or the other, you pothead, LOL. Listen, Connor, you don't know apparently because you're a good kid. You keep yourself nice and sober. Good job, Connor.
Meanwhile, they're me. Yeah.
All righty. So next up, there's a video. They can see what you're actually doing with your cup. I don't know if you're aware of what this live streaming process is.
Wait, am I stuck in a box? Where am I?
No.
Oh, God.
Oh, no. I'll free you. Wrong direction. All righty. So next up is the first of our new members of the wide receiver corps, Paris Campbell, also called Perry Campbell. No, he's not.
He likes his croissants.
6 foot even, 208 pounds, 25 years old. Another young guy here. 4th year, in the 4 years in the league, so it'll be his 5th year. 2nd round pick out of Ohio State. Last year, we talked about it before, was the first year he was able to actually stay healthy for once. It's almost like he fits the wide receiver room before he even got here. 16 games, 63 receptions, 623 yards, 3 touchdowns. So there's a lot of guys out there that have really big hopes for this guy. And I'll say from my perspective, I want people to kind of curb their expectations to a certain degree on him because he's been injured every single year.
Yeah, I was about to say, before you put in your expectation on this guy, let me tell you his 2021 stats. He had 10 receptions, 162 yards. His long was 51 yards. So let you know what the other 5 receptions were.
Yeah.
1 touchdown. Right. 2020, his freshman year, he had 2 starts, 6 receptions, 71 yards, with 11.8 as his high in yards.
Yeah.
So we'll see. Is he going to be something?
I look at him as more as he's going to be kind of the gadget player for us. And he's going to be a guy who's going to get some yards. He's going to get some time if he can stay on the field. But I don't expect him to be a number 1 for us kind of guy. But I do think there are people out there that have this expectation of him for some reason. I think a lot of it is a lot of people liked him coming out of college. Again, 2nd round pick. We just talked about a 5th round pick and a 6th round pick. This is one of the few guys that has an actual pedigree from college coming into the NFL that we have on this roster. Like that. So again, I think there's some people who expect him to do big things for us. I don't expect huge. I think he'll be a part of this offense, and you'll see him get, maybe like, 30, 40 yards of receiving each game that he's healthy. Again, I have to say that every time because you just never know with him, maybe 1 or 2 rushes a game at a maybe a sweep or something like that. He's going to be that kind of player for us, I think personally.
So, I mean, let's also think about how many years did we sign him for, Drew?
1.
How many years did we sign Slayton for?
2-ish. And I say ish because you can easily get out of it after next year.
Yeah. So
Hodgins also 1 year, by the way.
Yeah. So, but Hodgins has more of a pedigree because he already showed what he did. So we know
what
he
did
did for the team. So did Slayton. But Hodgins was also picked up and came over to this team.
Correct.
Came over not week 1. Granted, Slayton did not play week 1 either.
Yes.
I think this might be like, hey, here's your training wheels. Here's a trial. You may have a starting job the next year if someone else that we had on this squad doesn't work out.
So yeah, to me, I think he's a different skill set. So Slayton is your burner. Hodgins is your possession receiver kind of guy. Campbell is kind of more your gadget kind of wide receiver. It's a different role within the team.
It is. I just felt like the yards, what they did last year, Campbell might be there to replace Slayton in the long run.
I don't think to replace Slayton. I think the next guy we'll talk about in a minute is here to replace Slayton. But what I do think is that there's something the Giants must have said to him for him to come to us, because he took a 1-year deal, didn't get a ton of money. And while he has all the injury concerns, not having a horrible year last year, being the guy that, again, has the history of what he did in college at that point, didn't come out of nowhere. I think somebody probably offered him more, but he thought this was a better option to get the huge contract that he wants long term. So I think there had to have been a conversation with Dable and with Shane as far as his role in this offense. But again, I still think that's what it's going to be, more of a gadget player.
I think it has something to do with that. I think players obviously saw
playoffs.
What happened.
Oh, players,
not offs. Players saw what happened to the Giants last year and what they were years prior. They want to play for a team like that. Get in early, get the big deals before they become a big thing, and win a ring with a team.
So you're saying they want to get in early before they become a big thing?
Well, no. You get in early.
That's not always comfortable. You want to kind of be gentle and take your time and go in slowly.
Sometimes you got to be a jackhammer.
But yeah, like I said, he'll be an active roster guy. That's for sure. They didn't sign him to cut him. So barring any kind of injury situation, I expect him to be pretty much on the roster year round.
Yeah.
So brings up our next guy, the rookie, Jalen Hyatt out of Tennessee. 6 foot even. They're calling him still on the depth chart 176. He's now weighing in at I think 188 last I heard. He's definitely added some weight there.
Was that pre-injury or post-injury? Because
This is at the combine. That was his weight.
Oh, okay. I was just saying. No, he's definitely. I think he was like mid 180s. But listen, he could be over 200 pounds. You don't know.
No, he's not going to be over 200 pounds.
Hey, listen, you carry ACL. You're on your butt. You might want to have a couple extra cookies in the off season.
No. No, he's doing good. He's getting healthy. He's getting he's getting the right weight and all, but he's not going to have that kind of.
So Giants.com has him listed at 185.
And did he tear an ACL too? You said I don't remember anything about it. I know he had a hamstring issue. Oh, here we go. No, he was good. No, he didn't have the ACL.
No, oh, sorry, I misspoke.
Yeah, hamstring issue he had. The other one of our wide receiver issues we typically have.
Yeah.
So, again, rookie third-round pick out of Tennessee. Here's his stats last year. Remember, he won literally the award for best receiver in college football last year. 12 games, 67 catches, 1,267 yards, 15 touchdowns. Damn. A third-round pick?
A lot of people had him going late first, mid second. So,
again, I think it was a steal for us to get overall. And we talked, about the possible replacement of Darius Slayton. There, you were saying Paris Campbell. To me, this is the replacement for Darius Slayton all day long.
Yes,
in the long run, skill set.
Can't. You're right, but at the same time, like you can't expect Hyatt to go out there and.
No, and I don't expect that. I don't expect that at all. Here's what I actually expect. I think this is going to be a growth year for him. I think he'll play a very big part in the offense. And once in a while, he'll have a big game. Don't get me wrong, because he has that potential for big plays. He had that potential. It just takes one catch for you to have a really good stat line for the game, or to make one big play that changes the way things go, like a touchdown or 50-yard bomb at that point to get a touchdown later on, or a field goal or something. So I expect him to have that kind of role. I actually think, and I've heard rumors of this already, I think he might be our punt returner as well. I think you'll see him potentially do that as well. He did that in college. We know we had the issue last season with that. Again, Adoree Jackson can't be anywhere near a punt ever again for his entire life. So this is a guy that I see him as that's the role he's going to have. He's going to be a bit receiver while they kind of grow his route tree, help him with some of the stuff he needs help with, because he's not by any means a finished product. There's a reason he didn't go in the first round in the end, because he needs some help with his route tree. He needs some help with his motions. He needs some help with some of the stuff that the nuances of the position, so to speak. But I think he's going to eventually grow into a larger role with this offense. And I think by year 2, year 3,
correct,
they want him to be one of the starting wide receivers. They want him to be the number 1, basically, if not number 2. But I do think there's going to be the potential for him and Slayton to kind of battle it out for some playing time, depending on how well he is coming into the league.
How fast he develops.
But it's also, so we talked about this. We talked about the players there in the draft. Sometimes you look at a player in college and you go, this is what he did in college, because this is what he can do. And sometimes you look at him and go, this is what he did in college, because this is what he was asked to do. So the question is, does he have better route tree and better route running abilities than what he showed in college? And it was just that's what he was asked to do? Or is he limited right now in what he can do? And I think it's probably somewhere in the middle. I think he is probably better at a route tree than what he showed in college, because he just didn't need, to be very frank. But I do think he still needs help polishing some of those routes. So it's going to be, is there a point where he jumps Slayton this season, or is that going to come next season? Where will it come ever? It's a rookie. You never know what's going to happen with them.
Yeah.
But I think that's the plan, is the Giants want him to jump Slayton eventually.
Unless I think Campbell might do it first as a catch thing. Like, listen, I understand what you're saying, but if you get out of the deal next year and you got this guy cheap, and you can probably get him cheaper than Slayton the following year.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
exactly.
Especially Jalen Hyatt, who's going to be cheaper than both those guys, but
it's Connor Shams with. I'm just glad we're getting depth at positions on the cheap. And yes, that's especially at a very expensive premium position. He said, I think Slayton is going to be better now that there is competition. And that's a good point too, Connor, because sometimes that does bring that out in people. You get the competition, you get a guy to actually push you, And that brings it out where all of a sudden, like, I got to make the best of this scenario, because if I don't, I'm not going to have a job.
Well, that's it. Like, if you're the best on your team at doing something with no competition, you're just go, I'm the best. A lot of these guys have egos. That's how they get there.
Oh, yeah.
I'm the best. I'm the best. Who's going to do what I do? Now you got a guy who can do what you can do.
Oh, yeah.
Now who's going to be better?
And Deb says, hey, Deborah, she said, I'm not a fan of using him on returns. Too many injuries. You know, if he was a player we're counting on, like Adoree', I wouldn't be a fan of it. But again, because he did it in college, and because we have a need for it, and because it's more important of a position that I think people give credit for in this league, I think you'll see him in the end do it. You know, if he gets injured, or there's concerns about him having a hamstring issue like he had at the combine or something like that, I don't think they're going to risk him being out for a long term, and they'll put somebody else in that position there. But if he's fully healthy and he's not producing as like a number 1, number 2 kind of receiver, they're not going to waste the talent that he has and the speed he has. That's where they're going to utilize it. And at least in my humble opinion, even though I'm not really very humble.
Because, I mean, at the end of the day, it's also a business as it is, a sport. If you got a guy that's making on a rookie deal that's going to return for you compared to the guy that you were paying, how much should we pay Adoree' last year?
Yeah, well, Adoree', again, should be nowhere near.
Just saying, what makes a better business decision or sense?
Connor's not on our side. He said we should use the spare running backs for punt returns, maybe.
Connor,
whose side are you on?
Yes.
No, it makes sense. Again, in the end, we cannot be afraid of these players that don't have injury histories with us of returning punts when they're not uber important to the team overall. And it's not to belittle what Jalin Hyatt's going to be for the Giants, because he's, again, a rookie. We don't know what he's going to be. But guys, you cannot live in fear of injuries. I'm sorry. You cannot. If that's what you're doing, you're building your team wrong. Point blank.
So if you take a guy like your number 1 any position, right? Like, just throw it out there, because we've talked about this guy for half a year now. OBJ. He's our number 1 receiver. Did you want that guy returning kicks? No, because you're paying him way too much money. Did you want...
It's not just the money, it's the talent. You can't replace him. Jalin Hyatt right now is replaceable on this roster.
But I'm just saying at the time, so right before OBJ leaves, Slayton, like, you're supposed to say, like, right around time Slayton comes on the team, like, who's the better choice? Now you don't want Slayton to return the ball because he could fight for number 1.
Yep.
But at the time, he wasn't your number 1. And he was also worth way less. Well, so as a business standpoint.
With those hands, I want Darius Slayton nowhere near the punt return team. Let me just call that right now.
But you understand what I'm trying to say here.
Like, I get it. Like
the money cost of it as well.
It's all about, in the end, if you're gonna play the I'm worried about an injury card, you just make sure you put somebody in there that you're worried about, that you can maybe go ahead and get, put
a tight end back there.
No, you just get somebody that you're going to get that is replaceable, that can do the job decently. That's what Jalin Hyatt is right now. As Connor says, they should just get rid of punts and kickoff returns. Just start at 20 or 25, same injuries. More than 3/4 of the time, balls kicked out of the end zone. See, and that's why I'm saying, though, Connor, because of that is why I'm saying, though, punt returns are still important. Kickoff returns, you're 100% right. But punt returns, no. If your defense is doing the job right, and the defense gets a 4 and out at, let's say, the 25-yard line, okay? Let's say they're at the 30-yard line. Now you're really talking field goal position. Actually, a field game position. And it's a big thing to go ahead and have a good punt returner that can go ahead and clip a 20 yards off of a 40-yard punt. That's a huge advantage for an offense.
Exactly. So if you're starting at your own 20 and you get stopped at your own 18 and you have to punt that away, you're not going to kick it out.
I like how you went back -2 yards.
Oh, just whatever it is.
Deck C for the sack.
Yeah. But for a kicker to or for a punter to get it 82 yards or then some, chances are that's not going to happen.
Not going to happen.
If you just start automatically at the 20 or 25, when that punter is probably going to kick it to the 20, and if you got a talented returner, he can get you to the 40 or 50.
Yep.
What sounds better on the field and what does better for your team? That's why it's so important.
And again, kickoff returns, I'm with you. They're pretty much pointless at this point because of that. They're because they moved it up because they're moving where the coverage teams are from starting at. Again, everything now is in the favor of the kicking team. You're going to kick it out of the end zone. You're going to, you're not going to get very far with it. You don't see the kickoff return touchdowns like you used to see.
Yeah.
Punt returns still matter in this league. And I'm not saying that, again, if he's injured, you still put him out there at risk of further injury. I'm not sitting there saying if he turns out to be a number one receiver for us, that you go ahead and put him out there. But in his current spot on this roster, it makes sense to put him there. And then if he wants out of it, grow out of it.
Yeah.
Grow out in the field.
And listen, if he develops himself by week 10, he's got himself 700 yards. He doesn't do it anymore. Yep. He's got to sit there and be a weapon in our offense.
Exactly. But again, he will be definitely active roster. He will be definitely somebody that you'll see on the field. It's just a matter of how often you see him on the field. And as Dable has proven, the person who gives us the best chance to win is the one who will be on the field. Regardless of you being a rookie, regardless of how much money you're making, all that stuff. So if Jalen Hyatt doesn't want to return punts, he just got to produce on the field.
Yeah.
And then it's less likely to happen because we're needing him on the field more. And then you don't want to risk the injury. So, like I said, we'll see what happens. But I never want to live in fear of injuries, guys. Unless it's a player we have that's special that has a history of injuries. I wouldn't put Darren Waller back there, obviously. Oh, that'd be stupid. Terrible. First off, he's too big to be a punt returner, but he has the injury history. We didn't want a Dory Jackson back there last year. We flipped about it then because, again, you have a guy with an injury history. You don't put people with injury histories there. That's the only issue there. All right. Yeah. So next up,
truck it along.
Last year's rookie, Wan'Dale Robinson, the little guy, 5'8", 185 pounds, still just 22 years old because he was nice and young. And again, second-round pick last year out of Kentucky. 6 games, 3 starts, 23 catches, 227 yards, 1 touchdown. I think half of those stats came against the Detroit Lions, basically.
Close to it.
Yeah.
He started coming to before the Lions game. Like he really started to open up his shell because before that, like he was going out there getting 17, 25 yards, and then all of a sudden, what was it, 111 yards before he got hurt in the third?
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. That's half. That's pretty much half of his yards for the season there off the Lions there. So you saw some good promise. I'll say it this way though. And I don't want to use the analogy as far as the personality or the type of people they are. But it's almost like when we saw Tony go crazy against the Cowboys. Tony gets hurt, doesn't play much the rest of the year, and Giant fans are all like, oh, look at Tony. Look at it against the Cowboys. He's going to have 2,000-yard season now. He's going to be your number one receiver. He's going to be this. He's going to be that. Like, I don't want to go too crazy with Wan'Dale, what we think he's going to do this year. Because to me, he's still an unknown commodity for not just us, but for this league overall. We don't know what the level of talent is. We saw glimpses of really good, but we also saw some games that he just didn't, he got injured a lot. He didn't do very well.
I was saying there's just some games where they didn't start him that much because he was a rookie. So
yeah. So we just don't know we're going to get out of him in the end. So we got to see what he's going to be fully in this NFL. Again, this is a guy who could be our number one wide receiver overall if he has a breakout season, or this could be a guy who has a bit part role in this offense. Neither one would surprise me overall. So
no,
I don't want to make any wild claims about him, except for that we have to be in a wait and see pattern to see what he's going to be in this league overall. But I definitely think he'll be in the active roster, though.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
So I think he's going to do good for the Giants. I'm just sorry.
Yeah, no, I liked him coming out. We drafted him even. We talked about it in the preseason last year. I was a big proponent of the pick overall because anytime you get a guy who dominates in the SEC, that's a guy you want. By the way, Jalen Hyatt dominated the SEC. I'm just going to throw that out there as well, that back-to-back years the Giants are drafting guys who dominated in the SEC. Pattern. I look for patterns now because it's 2 years of drafting. So we'll have to see what SEC dominant wide receiver we get next year.
We shall see.
Listen, that's what he likes, guys with high athletic scores, and apparently he likes SEC wide receivers that dominate patterns. But yeah, again, he'll be there. He'll like I said, I don't think he's going to be thrown a starting job per se. I think the starting jobs are going to be kind of up for grabs overall. I think the only guy that I really see as an obvious starter is going to be Hodgins. But I think that Wan'Dale could have a decent sized role and be a potential starter.
Yeah.
Or he could be a bit player. We just don't know. It was still so many unknowns.
Yeah, just to go down some of the highlights of just as a receiving yards. So when he got hurt, I was wrong. He had 100 yards even.
Okay, it is around 100 yards. Yeah,
average 11.1 yards with 9 receptions, 13 targets. When he played against Houston, he only had 2 targets, 2 receptions, 20 yards. Obviously, 10 average, 11 long. Yeah. The week before that against Seattle, he only had 2 receptions, 3 targets, 15 yards. Worst game of the year that he had. Mm-hmm. Week before that, 6 receptions, 8 attempts thrown to 50 yards, 8.3 average. Week before that, 3 receptions, 4 targets, 37 yards, average 3.12. So he has like the momentum that was working for him.
Yeah. But at the same point, we have to bring up the fact that when he dominated the Lions, that was a defense that every wide receiver was dominating. He beat up a bad defense.
And that's what you're supposed to do. If he didn't, that's
100%. But when I see a 100-yard game against a bad defense, and I see the rest of 20, 30 yards.
But also you got to look at all right, 9 targets. So if you want to take the game where he had 3 receptions, you times that by 3, guess what? He had over 100 yards. You want to take the game where he had 50 yards? But guess what? He's right at 90 yards.
If the queen of ball should be the king.
All right, you want to talk statistics? You want to talk mathematicals?
No, listen. I don't want to talk statistics because Mark Twain said it the best. There are lies, there are damn lies, and then there are statistics. The eye test told you he did not play that well the most of the season there. He played very well against the Lions when he played against a crappy defense.
What I was trying to get at is because he was not in those games.
I guess he was stuck behind all the rest of the talent we had at wide receiver.
Well, there's more talent before mid-season when everyone got hurt.
I'm just saying.
No one was looking at Wan'Dale to be like, he's our number one.
He was also hurt himself for much of the year.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. I'm keeping an open mind with him. I'm not trying to be down on him. I'm keeping an open mind. And I'm keeping level expectations to this is a guy who's going to have a bit role to being a potential starter if he's healthy.
I'm just saying he's probably a potential number 2.
I'm just saying I want to see him healthy first.
Yeah. Agreed.
He has the body of a middle schooler. Like I need to make sure he can actually stay on the field first.
I mean, like we talk coming draft season, that's what it looks like the NFL is going towards.
Like you know how the NFL sponsors the Boys and Girls Club? Like if he went to the Boys and Girls Club, they'd probably offer him a chair. Like they're like, thank you for joining our program. Here you go. Like,
hello, Mr. 6'7".
He's just not. Again, we talked about outliers a lot in the draft. He's got to prove that he can get beyond his size issues, and he hasn't proven it yet because he couldn't stay in the field last year. So until he does, I have to keep low expectations of him. And it's not a knock at him because I like the player, I like the move, but you still got to get beyond that.
Yeah. All I was trying to say is he had the ball moving and is to be that spot where we want him to be. But at the same time, he's also got a severe knee injury that he's coming back from.
Yeah. So the other question, that's the other question I was going to bring up with him. Will he even be healthy to start the year? We don't know.
Because of his age, he might be healthy, but like I would expect him like week 3-ish.
We'll see. I mean, but again, week 3 is not week healthy. 1. So, I think that's the big thing is that. But I'm saying, so he won't be healthy to start the year. So there's what you're saying.
So what they're saying is like it's questionable for him, like with Beavers, even though he's not in discussion now with his ACL when it happened. I just
wanted to say Beavers.
I did because I got shaved. Anyway,
I mean, Now, I'll say this. Wan'Dale saying point blank that he plans on being there week 1. That's what they're saying. And it was a clean tear of the ACL, which is easier to come back from one of the more complicated ones there. So I think, again, you're going to see him as a guy who hopefully will be ready to start the season and will be an active roster guy for sure when he's healthy. But we have to see when he actually gets healthy. And once he gets there, can he stay there?
And to go back off that, majority of football players who come off an ACL, they don't look the same the first few games. Nope. Maybe not that season.
Nope.
Even though I'm arguing for Wan'Dale because
did you have an ACL injury? You don't look the same either.
I've never had an ACL injury.
I'm just checking. You don't look the same.
Oh, no, I had a beard injury.
Oh, that was different.
I had a mustache injury.
Mustache. Alrighty. So on to our next guy here. Actually, let's go. We got a couple of comments before we do that. Connor here, we're talking about the kickoff returns, punt returns. Before he said, okay, I'll take at least kickoff returns, help the waste of time and injuries. If someone gets hurt, I'd rather be for real plays, not wasteful plays. Connor, it's still a real play. If you get a 40-yard return or a 40-yard catch, guess what? It's still 40 yards. A yard is a yard. That's what it is. A yard is a yard. A horse is a horse. Of course. It is what it is. Okay. He also says we got a lot of receivers. We just need more blockers and edge guys to get at the QB. Maybe another good linebacker. Well, listen, we always need good bodies on defense. That's for sure.
Yeah.
He said I'd rest some of the guys with these bad injuries, not play so much. And I think that's why, Connor. I think that's why you're seeing a lot of these guys with 1-year deals. And having the depth that we have. Again, we're missing a number 1 wideout. That's pretty obvious. But we have a ton of depth. We have a ton of capable guys, especially compared to what we had there last year. He says, also, I love Bingo like John S. Anderson Jr., but I got to say, I like Hyatt a little more now. Well, welcome aboard. Yeah. We did have Hyatt ranked higher than Jonathan Mingo because Hyatt showed effort. Mingo did not. Mingo did not show the effort that Hyatt did. So, and then he gives the stats. All righty. On to our next guy here. The guy that Giants fans are, well versed in.
Yeah.
The old man.
The vet.
Sterling Shepard. 5'10", 201 pounds. 30 years old. Put him out to pasture.
Yeah.
Hit 30. 30's when you start to die. 7-year vet. Second round pick out of Oklahoma, obviously. Last year, 3 games, 2 starts, 13 catches, 154 yards, and 1 touchdown. We know his MO, though. His MO is anywhere from 650 to 900 yards with a healthy season. Yeah, now the question is, has his MO changed because he's had 10,000 injuries between concussions and ACLs and all this stuff? Can he even safely play
Can he
football?
Stay healthy for the year?
Can he? No, my thing is, can he even get healthy in general? Can he even get on the field this year because he's had all these injuries, all of them?
He's had plenty of time to recover.
He's
a guy because of his age. Grant, we just talked about Wan'Dale.
He's so old.
He's like a third year of the age older than me.
In his rookie year, he walked to the rookie minicamp uphill in the snow both ways.
Yeah. And he didn't complain once about it.
Yeah, no, he didn't. And like I said, I think he's a guy that they want to keep on this team. They want to keep him on this team. But he's got to prove he can get healthy and he can not hurt himself and affect his future overall and his future health in order to see the field this year or ever again for that matter.
I think this is his riding off in a horse in the sunset season.
I'll tell you, if he gets hurt, if he gets hurt, don't even bother bringing a stretcher out to the field. Just bring the horse. Let him ride that horse right out to the sunset, right there in the field, because it's just too much here. We got Anthony, Big Blue Ant Seals. What's up? Anthony says, I think we start the season with Hodgins as our number 1 unless he slips up. And yeah, I definitely think Hodgins, Slayton, and Waller basically will be your main targets to start the season, but we'll see how that lasts. I do think that'll definitely change as the season goes. Kind of just imagine if Sterling could still bring it after resting. I wouldn't say he's been resting, and that Anthony says Shep is a great bench guy, but lately that's it. Listen, Shep was almost like a mascot for the team last year.
I was going to say, he wasn't even great. He was the best. Like, he was out there every game, didn't have to travel, and was there.
Yep.
In the face, coaching up this the young receivers as, our veteran.
And keep in mind, who had the big catch against Tennessee? Sterling Shepard. He was targeted 10 times both of the first two games there. So there's a good rapport with him and Daniel Jones, whereas some of these guys are a little newer. I think you're going to see him overall have, a decent year and contribute, again, if he's healthy.
Do you think when Eli and Shep played together, they had a bond, and that when
a bond of brotherhood,
and Eli retired,
they're blood brothers,
and gave Daniel Jones the helm and said, "Hey, this guy, this is how you toss the ball to him. Get you some yards every time."
No, I think that Sterling Shepard is one of those guys that honestly any quarterback gets along with, any quarterback likes, because he's just a solid, legit receiver. It's hard not to like somebody who's a team player who just does their job well, doesn't do it excellent. Like, I'm not saying he's he's not going to be in the ring of honor with the Giants necessarily, but he's the we talked about him being the ultimate Robin. He's a guy with short hands that comes up dependable, has a great attitude for the team overall, and you can't help but root for the guy. So, again, I'm hoping he gets healthy. I'm hoping he takes up an extra spot there for us in that wide receiver position. But again, he's got to prove he can get on the field, and then he's got to prove he can stay on the field.
Yeah, that's the biggest thing. I think he'll get on the field. It's just the longevity.
It's almost like I could see all these guys having like 600-700-yard seasons and like not having any 1,000-yard receivers at all, like that kind of thing.
Listen, if that's the case, because we got like 10 receivers, so like if
I'm saying
to get 600 yards, guess what Danny Jones just did?
But think about it this way: I'm saying like the big 5 or 6 guys. You figure if you put 5, let's say you get 6 guys at 500 yards, okay,
that's
3,000 yards. Let's say you put another 1,000 yards on the tight end position. That's 4,000 yards. That's not unheard of. You put another maybe 400 yards in the running back group. I could see him having a 4,400 yard season, and I could see that being the breakdown. If a bunch of guys with like 500 yards or 600 yards, they won't do anything crazy, and I think it very well may break down that way. Because again, we have just so many guys who were proven talents, and we have so many guys who were young talents in this league, and that ball is going to get spread around. It is. That's going to be spread around everywhere. It's going to be like
a Jersey summer.
Yeah,
that's why you should manscape.
So I got him as possible active rosters when I'm listing him as. It just all depends on his health. If he's healthy, he's going to be a Giant. He's going to be on the active roster. If he can't stay healthy, they're not doing it.
I think he's going to start at some point this year. I just don't know when or for how long.
Let's start on the active roster. I don't think he's going to be a starter. I'll put it that way. I think he'll come off the bench.
I think he will be our starter. I think he will start the game.
You do? See, I don't think so, because I think if he does that, the only way that happens is if he takes Hodgins' spot. You're not going to put 2 possession-style receivers out there in the field to start a game. Unless you want to do it like symbolically. Like, oh, look, Shepard's back. He's starting. Listen. And then take him out, play 2. Like him and Hodgins are too much overlap for what they do. They're both very similar players.
I mean, you're not wrong, but at the same time, like, listen, Shane, Mara, they all know their fans. Well, the Giant area, everyone knows there'll be at least one game where he starts just in symbolic, but I think he will start. And I think there's going to be a lot of confusion plays going into the year. So, like, if you start those 2 players, like, you're like, oh, this is how the offense is going to work, and then you switch it up through. We're going through, like, Shep may only get 5. He only may get 5 throws to, and get pulled out of the game. Same thing with Hodgins. I think it's going to be a community of balls.
Community of balls, you say, huh?
Yeah,
community. It reminds me of that episode of Futurama. That one that was supposed to like Star Trip Troopers, so they wanted the discounted gum. Oh yes.
I don't know if I've even seen that one.
Oh, you have to watch that. It's a classic episode. It was like they were going after this they're going after this world of balls. It was literally just bouncing balls, and there's like Henry Kissinger trying to like go ahead and like negotiate with these guys.
Oh wait, I haven't seen that one.
You got to watch it. It's classic. Yeah. It's a classic. All righty. Next up.
Yeah.
Jamison Crowder, another new guy here. 5'9", 177 pounds, 29 years old. So getting a little up there as well, getting a little long in the tooth. 8-year veteran. So he's actually got more years in the NFL than Shepard, even though he's actually a year younger. So I thought it was kind of interesting. 4th round pick out of Duke overall. Last year, not much. 4 games, 0 starts, 6 catches, 60 yards. This is a guy, though, that's got a veteran presence, a guy who's been in the league for quite some time, a guy who has, proven he's a legitimate receiver in this league. And, guys who are just football fans in general would probably remember him from his days with the Jets and with the Commanders, where he was, a good receiver for them. Again, not a Pro Bowl or not somebody crazy like that. But if you look at his last years of receiving, let's get them all real quick. So we talked about 60 yards last year, 447 the year before, 699, 833, 388, 789, 847, 604. This is a guy who's consistently gotten about 500 yards. Again, we talk about 500-yard receivers. Yeah. This is that guy.
Yeah, there has been many years or many seasons where he went over 800 yards, but
yeah, that's what I'm saying. He's about I mean, he's had anywhere from 300 to 800 yards basically every single season. So the question now is, can he even make the roster coming off such a bad year last year, which again was injured? It wasn't because he couldn't make it on the roster for the other 13 games there. He just was injured as well. So he's 29, coming off an injury, brand new to the team. Again, keep in mind, he played with the Bills last year, but obviously David was with us, so it wasn't like he had that connection either. I think he's honestly just insurance, where if Wandale can't play, Shepard can't play, this is a guy you can put at the bottom end of your wide receiver core and know that you have somebody dependable, that if the injuries start piling up for us like they did last year, you can put this guy in the field. He's not going to embarrass himself. He's not going to be a liability. He's not going to be like half the guys who put on the roster last year that you're like, who? What?
Yeah. Say what? Who?
Yeah, exactly. So it's a guy you can put out there in a pinch and not be worried about it. That's what he is. So I think of him as a possible active roster guy. If everybody is healthy, if Shep's back, Wandale's back, he's not going to make it.
Squad.
And I don't think practice squad. I think he'll probably ask for a release, because I think somebody will see the value in having him. You don't think a team that has like the crappiest wide receiver core in football like we had last year, a team like, the Titans, for example, wouldn't take him in a heartbeat?
Yeah.
To give an actual veteran receiver to a guy like Will Levis or Tannehill, whoever ends up playing quarterback for them this year. Because I'm still not convinced that Tannehill stays in this roster. Like I said, it depends on how he plays, obviously, and depends on injuries on our end there. But I can definitely see that happening. I can definitely see it as a possibility.
Yeah, I didn't think of it like that. Yeah, I definitely see that.
Yeah. Next up, another new face. Jeff Smith, the former Jet. 6'1", 195, 26 years old, 4-year guy, undrafted at a Boston College. Boston.
Oh, that's wicked awesome.
Oh, yes, wicked awesome here.
What a pisser.
Don't you know? Now, again, we talked about him when he got signed. He's the guy that they're thinking is going to be a we were talking about him as the gunner. Remember, we're talking about the gunner. Ooh, the gunner was a bad position for us last year. That was the punt man problem. we had an issue with the punt team because we didn't have a good gunner. I should say this: I'm rooting for the kid because he's from my neck of the woods. He was actually born in St. Pete, Florida. Here, he went to school at Clearwater Central Catholic.
Ooh.
Oh yes. Now, his high school that he went to is literally I could walk from my house to there. That's how close it is. Like when they play games there,
I mean, you can take a walk anywhere.
I can hear the music. That's how close. That's how close that team is. That school is for where I live. So maybe we can get Jeff Smith on the show that way. Like, hey Jeff, he's right in your school's backyard. Come on.
Yeah.
And it's funny, when I moved here, I had no clue there was a school there. It's kind of well hidden. So like all of a sudden during football season last year, you're hearing like the marching band going. I'm like, what the hell is this? So but yeah, like I said, that's how close the school is to where I am at that point there. That's kind of cool. And it's a small school too as well. So but again, guy's been undrafted. Guy has been kind of a barely making the roster kind of guy for years. So
he didn't see the field that much.
No. 11 games last year, 8 catches, 134 yards, no touchdowns. Again, when you have Zach Wilson throwing you the ball, it's hard to get receptions.
He did have a 50-yard long reception last year,
which was half his, like almost a third of his.
Yeah. So that leaves 84 yards.
Yeah.
For those other 7 catches.
That's fine. I mean,
which is not bad.
I think if he makes it, though, again, he makes it because of the gunner position on the punt coverage teams and stuff like that, and that's it. So I'm putting him as possible special teamer. Yeah. And he'd be primarily a special teamer. You put him on the special teams. Maybe in a pinch, he goes in the field every so often, or maybe because of injuries, you end up putting him on, that kind of role there. But I don't see him seeing the offensive field very often. As Connor says, forget about Smith. We're loaded. Let him punt return. He's not a punt returner. He's a gunner for the punt team. He's this. It's not what he does. All right. Next up, and this is a guy that I think my opinion is going to piss some people off, and I frankly could not give a damn. Frankly, my dear, I couldn't give a damn.
Whack.
Colin Johnson, 6'6". 225 pounds, 25 years old, 3rd year, 5th round pick out of Texas. Did not play at all in the regular season because of injuries. He tore his ACL in the preseason. Career stats we have for him here: 26 games, 1 start, 29 catches, 377 yards, 2 touchdowns. Now, for whatever reason, every so often, a group of fans will hold on to a scrub and try to turn him into this diamond in the rough. This offseason, that diamond in the rough is Colin Johnson. But folks, he's no Aladdin. He's no Aladdin. He's not that diamond in the rough, okay? He's not going to go into the Cave of Wonders and come out with a lamp and a carpet. It's not going to happen, okay? You've never had a friend like me. But he's been in the league multiple years, guys. Everyone's like, oh, he's so big. Oh, he's perfect size for the NFL. Oh, look what he did in the preseason. You know who else had a great freaking preseason? Alec Bachman. Okay, remember him?
The actor?
Most receptions in the NFL in preseason. Where did he end up? On the practice squad for the Houston Texans. He couldn't even get off their practice squad. If there's a team that had as bad a wide receiver room as us, it's the goddamn Houston Texans, okay? And he couldn't make it. It's because you cannot go off of guys that are beating scrubs in the preseason. And that's what Giant fans were doing because we were so desperate last year for a number 1 wide receiver. We saw everything in Colin Johnson that we were hoping to get at a Kenny Galladay.
Listen, I went to his Stewart's and someone came rolling up in rollerblades. I was like, that's our number 1.
Yeah. But we can't put these hopes and dreams on a guy who's had multiple years to show it in the past, hasn't shown it. It's just not there. It's not there, guys. So he'll be in camp. I see him gone. I see the dream bubble being burst for a lot of Giant fans that have very high hopes on him. And he'll be gone elsewhere and probably either on somebody else's practice squad or, if somebody team has some huge injuries or wants to take a chance on him that doesn't have the depth that we have, again, like a Tennessee, then maybe there's a place for him there. There's not a place for him here, barring major injuries. There's not a place. It's just not there.
Yeah. I don't want to see the guy go, but
listen,
we talk about
for every player. I hope for every player the best.
We talked about the business side of it. It just doesn't make sense. We have such a big room. Like, why are we going to keep the guy that's already shown to us that he's not going to produce?
Yeah.
When we have other people that have shown.
He's had a couple years to produce, and now he's coming off an ACL injury, so that's when he's going to produce.
And I already talked about it earlier.
Guys,
a lot of guys don't look the same the next year after ACL.
Seriously, I don't know why these pipe dreams are still going on, guys. We have wide receivers now. You don't have to imagine we have one. We have them now.
Yeah.
You don't have to dream about Connor Johnson becoming this big X factor wide receiver for us. It's not going to happen.
We got some really good way earlier round drafts that are way younger. Well, yeah, not way younger, but a lot younger.
He's 25, which is the scary part. He's still the age of some of the people coming out the draft this year.
Pretty much.
All righty. So like I said, I think he's gone. Next up, David Sills, the 5th Esquire. Sills Army. Where are you at? 6'3", 210 pounds, 26 years old, 4-year veteran. Again, undrafted guy out of West Virginia. Mountain Mama, take me home. Country road.
Take me home.
9 games last season, 5 starts, 11 catches, 106 yards, 0 touchdowns. And you saw his production just go as the season went on. As we saw what he was. Again, he's another guy who's a borderline NFL player, probably better off in the XFL. Let's call it what it is. These guys would make great XFL players, both him and Colin Johnson.
Yeah.
And that's where they are. Again, 4 years now. If he was any good, we would know it by now. It's time for me, in my opinion, again, barring any major injuries. I always have to get that caveat with this group of wide receivers. Barring any crazy injuries, it's time to cut him loose. It's time to give him an honorable discharge for the Sills Army.
I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if we see him back next year on the practice squad, but
I would.
It also depends, once again, on injury. So
yeah, that's what it all boils down to. So you can never close the door, but probably not. Probably not. Next up, Khalil Pimpleton, 24 years old. Pimpleton, yes, you have a pimple. 5'9", 172 pounds, 24 years old, 1 year. So he's been going to his second year here, undrafted again, at a Central Michigan. And he spent the beginning of camps and all that stuff for the Detroit Lions. They cut him, hoping to put him on the practice squad. We picked him up. He ended up on our practice squad and didn't come up all last year. Now, Rob, if you had to characterize our wide receiver group, would you say we had a good wide receiver group last year?
I say we had a practice squad pretty much starting for the whole year.
And he couldn't get on the active roster last year. That just tells you a lot of things, guys.
Yeah.
He was healthy the entire time. The coaching staff didn't bring him up. They signed guys outside of the building to avoid bringing him up. So I won't say lost cause because I haven't seen him in an NFL game. So I will not say lost cause. But I'm saying, given what we have above him, given what we have above him now, it's even less likely to see him on the active roster. So what I think will happen with him is I think he's more of a possible practice squad guy that they might give a second year or two and see what they can develop him into. But
I mean, there's a reason why they liked what they saw.
Yeah.
So who knows?
It wasn't just his juggling act, because he does do an amazing juggling act.
That's rumor on the street.
No, it's not just a rumor. It was on the NFL, on the Hard Knocks.
I was about to say it's on Hard Knocks.
Yeah. So I mean, again, that's what I think. I think he's going to be another guy that'll give a second year or two on the practice squad, probably, depending on what they think of him coming out of camp and what his development has been from this year, from last year. And one more time to show if he can do it or not. If he can't,
one more time.
It's time to cut his ass. Oh yeah.
One more time.
Like I said, that's it. You get to me with if you're a practice squad guy, you get 2 years, and if you can't show in 2 years you can do it, it's time to go, because you can keep on getting young guys and try to strike gold with somebody's undrafted rookie or something like that. You know, you don't strike gold if you don't have the spot to put them at.
Nope.
So
if you're looking in the cornfield, you're never going to find gold.
Yep, exactly. Unless somebody dropped it there accidentally.
Yeah.
Next up, we got Makai Polk, 6'3", 195 pounds, 21 years old. Last year was his first year in the league. Again, undrafted at Mississippi State. It's capital MISSISSIPPI.
You said PP.
Oh, I did. But you know what? You know what's very key about that? That it's shaven thanks to Manscaped. Again, 20% off plus free shipping at manscaped.com with the promo code Goofballs.
And make sure y'all pee every single time.
So last year, Makai had gone ahead and split time between the Ravens and the Giants practice squad. Let me just say this. If there's a team out there that has a bad wide receiver core along with the New York Giants, the Baltimore Ravens could easily be on that list. So he went and couldn't make the active roster with either one of us last year. Again, not holding out for high hopes. I don't have high hopes. But again, because he's 1 year in the league, if they want to put him on the practice squad and give him a second chance like that, again, it's something that I could definitely see there, as something to do there. So, but I don't think he's got any ceiling beyond that personally. I mean, again, I got to see with anybody who basically was one of ours last year and couldn't make the roster in the wide receiver room. I'm like, I just can't. I can't hold it any hope.
It's hard to get. Yeah, it's hard to get behind, especially when we made pretty solid moves in this offseason.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, yeah. It's like, imagine if you were in like a bench pressing competition and like all but like 5 players had no arms. Like there was you should have been able to beat the competition you had and you couldn't do it. Like, I'm just saying. So all right, next up we got Dre Miller, 6'3", 224 pounds, 25 years old, 1 year again, undrafted out of Maine. Which sometimes you forget that Maine even has a college because it's so cold up there and nobody wants to go watch football there. Now
there's also like 8 people in the moose up there is the population. So
hey, don't you know? So he's kind of a hybrid player. So I've seen some places list him as a wide receiver. Some places have listed him as a tight end. So for the point of arguments, we're talking about wide receivers. We will talk about him in this since he's listed as that kind of hybrid kind of guy. Again, we've talked about this enough. 1 year guy. Could make the active roster last year. Give him another shot if you want, but I'm not holding any hope.
Yeah.
There's
not much to be said about him.
No, exactly. Next up, another guy that the Giant fans are just talking up, the future All-Pro apparently. And yes, guys, that is sarcastic. Bryce Ford Wheaton, 6'3", 220 pounds, 23 years old rookie, undrafted out of West Virginia.
Take me home.
So last year in college, 12 games, 62 catches, 675 yards, 7 touchdowns. Now, if you listen to some Giants pundits, they'll tell you this guy's the second coming of OBJ. This guy is going to be an amazing wide receiver. I've never seen an undrafted player talked up so much as this kid is. Like, seriously, guys, stop it. Stop it.
He's going to be the OBJ junior of the practice squad.
He's so good he got skipped over 200 and some odd times.
Yeah.
Stop it. Like, be realistic, guys. This is a guy that needs work. The Giants gave him a lot of money as an undrafted free agent. They were in a battle to get him with multiple other teams. It's been said that the only reason he came to the Giants is because David Sills, of all people, being they both were West Virginia guys, talked to him and explained to him point blank that Dable is the guy who's going to play the best man. He's not going to go ahead and say, you can't get in because you're undrafted. I have this other guy I'm paying this money to. He's going to put the best man up. And that's what attracted Ford Wheaton over to the Giants. And in the end, he needs some time to polish some skills there. He needs to get separation better. He needs to learn route running better. Because if you watch the highlight film, he's got some amazing highlights. But when you have 12 games and 675 yards, what does that tell you?
Yeah, that's awesome about highlights. Yeah. You could put 4 minutes of awesome video clips of almost any player out there. But when they have 200 minutes of film that's not being shown, you got to watch that too.
That's 56 yards a game, guys. Like, you'll listen to guys that'll act like this guy like dominated at West Virginia. That's not dominating. You want to talk about dominating? We can talk about dominating. We can go back to Jalen Hyatt and his 1,267 yards in the same 12 games. That's dominating. Yeah. His 15 touchdowns, that's dominating. So,
literally double.
Again, I'm not saying this kid is not worth taking a shot. I'm not saying he's not worth working on this year. He is a definite practice squatter in my eyes. He's 100%. The one guy that I will say will definitely be sitting on our practice squad unless somebody takes him off our practice squad.
Or he gets called up because injury.
That's what I'm saying. But like I said, we have to curb our enthusiasm with the guy who got undrafted. I'm sorry. That's just ridiculous to hope the kind of thing some Giant fans are hoping for. Yeah. All right, we got one last wide receiver who's really not even much of a wide receiver, really.
He's a wee man.
He's a much more of a special teamer. Jaden Mickens, 5'11", 170 pounds, 29 years old. Played in the league for 7 years so far. Undrafted out of Washington. Did not play at all last year. And this guy is listed as a wide receiver, but in the end, what he is, he's a kickoff specialist. He's that guy who just, you put him for punt returns, you put him for kick returns. You know, as you guys are all worried before about Jalen Hyatt, this is your guy that you definitely have no problem putting out there.
Yeah.
And
because he was drafted number 3, who cares about this guy's health?
Yeah. Basically, that's apparently what it is. Throw this guy to the Wolves. He's 29 years old. He can take it.
But New York Giants, if you want a 37-year-old man from New Jersey to run football back, run a kick return for you, and not worry about injury, I'm your guy.
Is that why you shave so the chin strap works better?
Yeah. I don't want to CT be concussed.
So again, we talked 7 years. 7 years in the league. In those 7 years, he's played in 38 games on offense with 15 catches, 145 yards, and 2 touchdowns. So yeah, guys, he's not a receiver. Career. He's a kickoff guy. So if he makes this roster, it's purely as a kickoff specialist. Purely as a kickoff specialist. You know, that's if maybe, let's say hypothetically, and again, hypothetically, we don't know what's going to happen yet. If we cut Gary Brightwell, because we now have got a new running back from the draft, and go, okay, well, now who's the return kicks? Oh, here's Jaden Mickens we have here as a specialist for that for years. That's the situation that I look at where we keep a guy like this. Otherwise, I just don't see it personally. He didn't even play in the league last year at all. But again, he's got a good history. He's got a good experience level. He's the guy that you don't worry about dropping the ball twice against Seattle. Sorry, Richie James, had to say it.
I mean, this is a guy that's he's probably going to be at the practice squad. Is where he's going to stay. And
I don't think that even. I really don't. I think he's going to be 100% a guy that if they keep him as a kick return, and that's it. And if he doesn't make the roster, they just let him go. I just think
with the talent that Giants have, they have to have multiple back-ends. And then with the roster situation of how many people they could have active, are they going to keep a specialist just for this one spot?
You know what? Was it an issue last year for us?
It was an issue last year.
So why would you not? But hold on. So if you're admitting it's an issue last year, why would you not keep somebody who specifically does that and fix the issue?
Because then you could take away from, backup running back. You take a backup wide receiver. You take away a position for a backup, tight end. You take a position away from any other position that was also an issue for us. When you could turn around and take one of these guys you got in a rookie deal, like Hyatt, or you take Gray, and you put him back to kick return balls, that is probably cheaper. So, there's other options to do. But if we're going to keep him, maybe.
Like I said, if they can figure out the spot for him and it makes sense to do, that's where you could put him at. That's the only option where you would put him at. If you don't find a spot to put him off the bat in that position, then you cut him and say that you can pick him up off the streets probably later on in the year.
Maybe.
He didn't play last year. Nobody picked him up. So why would we be worried about putting him in the practice squad so we don't lose rights to him? No one's picking him up. It's not like, you're a kickoff returner. I need to learn the offense first. No, you just go there, you catch the damn ball, and you run the opposite way that the defenders are going. It's not that difficult. A lot of it is very instinctual, and all you're told pretty much when you're a returner is left, right, center. The rest of it's winging it.
Pretty much.
So that's what I'm saying. I don't see him as somebody we keep, but if we do keep him, it's purely because we want a kickoff punt return guy who just does that, and that's it. That's all it boils down to. So again, guys, we have Hodgins, Slayton, Campbell, Hyatt, Robinson as guys that we expect to see on the active roster. We have Shepard and Crowder as possible guys we keep on the active roster. We have Jeff Smith and Jaden Mickens as people that we think may go ahead and make it as a special teamer potentially, but we lean towards that not being the case. We have special teams guy. Practice squad guy. The only guy we say definite was Bryce Ford Wheaton. We had possible practice squad spots for Khalil Pimpleton, Mekhi Polk, and Dre Miller. And then we have we're split on David Sills. I have him as being gone. You have him as being a possible practice squad guy. And I think, correct me if I'm wrong, we're agreeing that Colin Johnson's probably gone.
Probably, yeah.
So, all right. So, yeah, like I said, that's our breakdown overall. And again, we had to say possible because we don't even know who they're going to keep overall. And some of these guys, you may go, okay, how many receivers we need in the practice squad? So, yeah, it all depends on who they think is the best, who's the healthiest, and based on that as well. Who might even end up on the IR, depending on what happens with guys like Wandale and with Shepard and guys like that, and start the year with the the IR with the ability to add them back onto the roster later on. So I'll say this: if you're looking for a bold prediction, I know people love to make bold predictions. Ooh. I'll make this bold prediction: Jamison Crowder will be on the active roster, I think, to start the year, but he will not end the season as a New York Giant. He'll be cut loose to go sign elsewhere before the season's over.
I can see that.
That's my bold prediction. It's bold. Spicy.
So bold. So
spicy.
Bold.
All righty, guys. So we'll be back again for you guys here on Wednesday, our usual time here. So we're going to be on again 9 o'clock. Our episode next will be going over the secondary. There's been a lot of changes to the secondary in the draft between free agency, between the draft. So we want to kind of go over that, similar to what we did with this episode here with the wide receivers. Afterwards, on Thursday, I will officially be leaving the country.
Ooh.
Oh, yes.
Time to go. Bye.
Bye. So Rob is going to be doing the episode without me on Thursday. We're going to go over to the schedule because Thursday is the schedule release day. So we're going to have that tentatively at 9 o'clock as well for you guys. The release show is at 8 o'clock. If that's still going on, we don't have the full rundown of what the schedule is going to be yet, then by all means, we can go ahead and delay that if need be. So keep an eye out for that. When it's going to start is going to depend partially on the NFL when they decide to actually release all the information there. Again, guys, we'll be on 3 nights a week throughout the entire offseason. We're not going to change as far as that. We are going to change the dates, though. We talked about as a possibility. We're going to start doing Monday, Wednesday, and Thursday instead of Monday, Wednesday, and Friday like we've been doing at 9 p.m. Kind of frees up the weekend here a little better for Rob and I since
And
it's not like there's any breaking news this time of the year. You typically, this is more of the camp stuff, the final touches to the roster, that kind of stuff there. But we already have things planned out for the whole entire offseason, guys. So we have legit episodes. It won't just be me and Rob making Manscaped jokes the entire time, I promise.
Or me crying about my
mustachio, your mustachio. So again, guys, Monday, Wednesday, and Thursday is when it's going to be. So if we're going to be live on Facebook, we're going to be live on YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, my LinkedIn profile will be available, of course, afterwards on those platforms as well. Again, of course, we're also on every audio platform pretty much known to man. So if you prefer doing the audio podcast to the video podcast, we're on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Amazon. It's like 13 different ones we're on overall here. So there's so many popping up all the time that I'm always like, I didn't even know we were on that one. And guess what? We are on that one.
He loves a random pop up.
Listen, it's just what happens sometimes. So listen, we're on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Podcast Index, Amazon Music, iHeartRadio, TuneIn and Alexa, Podcast Addict, Podchaser, Podcast, Deezer, not Weezer, the band, Deezer, Listen Notes, Player FM, Overcast, Castro, not Fidel, Castbox, Podfriend, and Good Pods. I think we're on enough. So, guys, if you have any of those or even multiple of them, just subscribe to all of them. Go for it. Makes us look good. We appreciate it. So, and of course, we appreciate you guys listening in today, watching today, whichever one you're choosing to do. Again, thank you to our podcast sponsors here, Manscaped. Again, guys, remember, summer is coming.
Light it up.
Oh, yes. It's time, guys. It's time. Go ahead and go to manscaped.com. Get this Lawnmower 4.0 package so you can save yourself from sweating your balls off this summer. Literally, you never know what's going to happen. Again, 20% off, free shipping, manscaped.com. Promo code is Goofballs. Make sure to use that promo code or else you do not get the 20% off. You do not get the free shipping. And if you're a cheap bastard like me, you want that.
And it helps the show. So please help us out.
Plus, you got the Weed Whacker. If you're one of those people like me that gets a little hairy ears and all at that point without the usage of these things, you get the little nostril hairs going. Listen, the older you get, the more you need this thing here. That's for sure.
That is definitely for sure. This guy's this bust on my face. Trust me, I know. The bust on my face, calling my nose.
Oh, I thought you said something else at first.
Oh.
So you said bust instead. Again, guys, manscaped.com, save 20% off, promo code Goofballs, get free shipping. So again, guys, thank you very much for listening and watching here tonight with us. We do appreciate you guys coming on. Again, we'll be live on Thursday. Well, I say we, but I say we, I mean he, because Rob will be live, not me. Maybe Rob, you gonna get a guest, maybe? Someone to replace me?
Maybe.
I'm irreplaceable.
To some.
Who knows? Yeah. And then, like I said, we'll be live, like I said, on Thursday with that there, guys. We appreciate you coming in here, listening into us. We have a lot of options where to get your Giants news from. We appreciate you guys choosing these two goofballs to be the ones to give it to you. And we give it to you good.
Oh.
And as always, Giant fans,
go G-Man! G-Man!
Thanks for listening to Two Giant Goofballs, a New York Giants podcast. We appreciate your support. If you made it this long, you must have enjoyed it. So I am sure you have followed us on all the social media platforms. Of course, you have subscribed to the show on your favorite app as well and given us a top rating. Right? Right? Right?